FDIC. In the House, it's Dr. Carey Wright, the State Superintendent of Education, and Pete, Pete, you've been in public relations for a long time now.
Yeah, for about 22, 23
Starting
years.
out with...
Well, about 25 years.
State auditor?
Well, in government, started out as a sports information director at my alma mater, Mississippi College.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we thank you for coming in. Pete is the Chief Communication and Government Relations for the Mississippi Department of Education. Happy holidays to both of you.
And to you, Paul.
Make it through Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's great.
Pete, you stay on your diet?
Not really.
Let's delve into this on which area do you want to go, because I got a multitude
You go right
of things.
ahead, Paul.
Let's talk about the CRT. I want to get it out of the way.
Sure.
The critical race theory. I haven't received any reports in the state of Mississippi. I don't think it's a problem in our state now.
Correct.
I think that parents, school boards, teachers, everybody should be alerted to how invasive that can be and how different forms it takes. But you're, as of November the 30th, last day in the month of July, your report on CRT. And I'm almost sure there's going to be some legislation that's going to happen
absolutely.
in January.
We expect that.
So you're a state superintendent of education. Your thoughts?
Well, it doesn't exist here in Mississippi, and we've not had
But
a
you
teacher.
can't guarantee that.
Well, I can tell you that it's not in our standards.
It's not in formal curriculum.
Absolutely not. And nor have we received any information from an administrator or a teacher, even a teacher saying, my administrator's forcing me to do this or whatever. We're just not hearing that. And, we've said it over and over again, and we've had our standards are up on the website for anybody to take a look at. Do we teach U.S. history? Absolutely. Do we teach, the fact that we went through a civil war? Absolutely. I mean, we teach the things that of our history, but we do not teach critical race theory in
I think
K-12.
one of the concerns, Pete, is also that some teachers take it upon themselves to massage the curriculum a little bit.
So, yeah, Paul, as you know...
I don't know how you can do anything about that.
Right.
I don't either.
The State Board of Education, they set the standards, but then we always say it's up to the local school districts to choose what curriculum they use to meet those standards. So
that's why we always say they've got to. One of the things as far as the New Year's resolution, and we've been preaching this on this program for a long time, is to get more involved in the schools.
Absolutely.
They've got to do this.
Absolutely.
The vast majority of the problems we're having today is because the parents. And we have to look in the mirror on this one. The parents have just let it go, and they've let the forces out there that may not take them to where they want to be. They have control. They don't go to PTA meetings, PTO meetings. They're not involved in the election. They have no idea who the school board members are, and they've got to change that.
Well, Paul, I totally agree with getting parents involved, because that's the one thing. Anytime I get an email from a parent, or a community member that has a complaint, it's very much a local issue. And my advice to them is to absolutely take this up with your local board, absolutely take this up with your local superintendent or your local principal, because that's really where the issues need to be resolved, is at the local level.
Is it permeating itself in through social studies, maybe not history?
No, we're not seeing it either way. Our social studies standards permeate K-12. So there's social studies standards from kindergarten through grade 12, and it just depends on what grade, then depends on what standards that you're teaching at that time.
When the story on the National School Board Association, they were asking the Biden administration to seek the FBI on some of the parents, because that was, and we know that whole story out there. Then I'd mention on the air, would you folks out there who are members of this audience and this family go and check and see if the school boards were members of that? And apparently our Mississippi School Board Association was a member of the National, to which I think there was, and this has been several weeks ago, they sent a letter to the National School Board and decided to get out of that organization. Is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a decision that that any organization is allowed to make. I mean, I think that if you're aligning yourself with a national organization, you want to make sure you're aligning yourself with its values and what it stands for. And so I think the MSBA decided that wasn't where they wanted to be.
It's a line between being disruptive and threatening at a school board to voicing your opinion with some enthusiasm.
Totally agree.
And
And that's the thing that I say to people, even when we're not in agreement, we can disagree agreeably. We don't need to disagree in an angry way with each other. And I think that's I think when that steps over the line and when it becomes threatening, I think that's a bit much.
Have you seen either one of you, and since you're in government affairs, Pete, have you seen any bill or heard about any bill that's going to be coming forward as far as CRT is concerned?
I've not seen a particular bill yet, but I've heard that there's somewhere upward probably 15 to 20 bills that have been pre-filed.
15 to 20 bills pre-filed on that.
On CRT. And so,
well, do they all basically say the same thing?
Well, I haven't seen them, so I'm looking forward to.
Is this House and Senate or House and or Senate?
I don't know. I don't know. I just heard that there are about 15 to 20 bills that have been pre-filed.
This would have nothing to do with the universities. Now, we understand at the universities, several universities, it is taught.
Paul, that's the research that we've been.
That's the reason. It started out in law school. Is really where it started out. It started out in law school somewhere around the 30s and 40s, and it was really meant to teach attorneys around some of the systemic racism that was occurring at the time, the redlining of districts, about where not to allow people to purchase homes and things of that nature. But it was really a law school concept. It was never intended to be a K-12 concept.
Well, how did it get there?
That's a really good question, and I wish I had the answer to that. I don't know if it's been conflated. I think that happens a lot. I think, when the Black Lives Matter issue was around the nation, I think that caused some issues with it as well. And I think that it just became conflated into something that it really wasn't originally intended to be.
My name is blank. I'm listening here. My granddaughter goes to blank. My family members whom are teachers and or administrators in that area. My granddaughter is being exposed to CRT in, it said, let's tell you, it says the Clinton school system. She is a junior.
The what school system?
Clinton.
Well, then they need to address that with their local board.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And people have asked me again, can you define CRT? Well, there's a lot of different definitions.
That's exactly
of CRT.
right.
Depends on which side you're on.
That's exactly right.
One of the most amazing things, and I think we did a story, it's been a couple of 3 months ago, that the number one state for the increase in mixed marriages is the state of Mississippi. Our increase, probably because we have so little, but it is the fastest rising demographics where you have mixed marriages in the state. And we've seen so many different testimonies and witnessing by some of the parents upset in mixed marriages that they're going home and telling the parent that they're the enemy. The dad or the mom happens to be the enemy in this. And it's just gotten totally out of control.
I could not agree with you more.
At the end of the year, how do we look as far as the school situation in our state? Because one of the last time you were with us, we got some numbers in, and the pandemic kind of knocked us back a little bit.
It did, knocked us back a little bit, but I think everybody is back in person learning. We're going to be administering our statewide assessments in the spring, and as a matter of fact, the National Assessment of Education Progress is going to be administered for the first time since 2019 in the spring of this year. So we will get a national perspective on exactly what has occurred during the pandemic. But teachers are back at work, administrators are back at work, and we're hearing lots of good things that are happening around the state.
With the Mississippi Department of Education, you requested a total of $3 billion.
That would have included MAEP.
Yes.
$23,543,172. Boy, you sharpened no sense on this at all. For the fiscal year 2023, that is a 12.56% increase from fiscal year 2022. With all the other money coming in, why would you need more money?
Well, I think MAEP got recalculated this year, and that accounts for part of it.
Per legislation? Or
it has to be recalculated. I think it's every 3 years, I want to say. Every 4 years that it gets recalculated, and this was a recalculation year, so that could have accounted for a part of it. I can tell you that the department's portion of it, we have only, out of all of the money that we request, our overall portion is about 1% of the total budget.
Talk more about this, but again, the key word here is request.
Correct. Yeah. That's right.
As you well no.
Yes, indeed.
We'll talk more with Dr. Carey Wright, State Superintendent of Education, and Pete Smith, Chief Communication and Government. Back with Dr. Carey Wright, Superintendent of MDE, and also Pete Smith. All right, let's talk about what we were mentioning before we left off as far as the budget's concerned. There's a lot of money coming in the Department of Education. Do we have control of it? Do we know where it's going, when it's going, how it's going, all of this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much line items, so we know exactly what's coming in and what it's for. There are other things that are put in our budget that are line item to other folks that we're the pass-through for. But yeah, we've asked for extension for early childhood, to have more collaboratives. We've asked for more money for professional development. We've asked for more money for, SROs and schools. So, we get the information from the districts in terms of this is what we need. Math coaches. We need to make sure that our math coaches are still in play next year, our literacy coaches. So all the money that we use goes for the education in the district. So it's not just MAP. We don't retain that money, Paul, in terms of for the department. We, like I said, our budget's less than 1% of the whole budget that we request. But we do ask for things that are going to impact education across the state.
What do we need as far as this additional money coming in? And I understand broadband's going to be a big part of this.
Absolutely.
But we're doing a pretty good job as far as putting this tablets or whatever in the
Absolutely.
In the hands of
We've done
students.
that. We did the Mississippi Connects initiative, and so we have a brand new device in every teacher and every student's hands. We are now moving into a professional development piece of this so that teachers know how to use these devices in school and not just when the children have them at home, but use them instructionally in school. So we've hired digital learning coaches around the state to help teachers know how to use these devices instructionally. And we've got a lot of things going on in the state. We've got math coaches. We've got literacy coaches in the state. We've got early childhood coaches. We've got school improvement coaches. Our coaching initiative has been a very successful strategy for us. And so we have continued to ask for money for more coaches.
It seems that ought to be the same as far as the teaching, regardless of the financial assets of a school district. In Chula, Mississippi, compared to Madison, Mississippi.
Absolutely.
There should be that the computers are the same.
Absolutely. And we've even used our money, our set-aside money, to purchase high-quality digital content for those devices across the state so that the districts, can use that for them. We've also put money aside for high-dosage tutoring for children that we know that are struggling or maybe behind. So that's part of the money that we put out an RFP for. And also, we are looking to expand telehealth across the state. And we've been working with University of Mississippi Medical Center on how we get that done.
What do you mean? How is the Department of Education involved in that?
We're using our money to help expand telehealth.
You're working with the health department?
The University of Mississippi Medical Center. Absolutely. We have been for the past year.
How do we do that? Just teaching or?
No. It's actually children and families and teachers having access to telehealth and teletherapy at the school site.
The school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
$86 million for career and technical education, $18.9 million for the Chickasaw School Fund. Explain that, because a lot don't know what the Chickasaw School Fund is.
Pete,
I
say I'm going to defer that one to you.
So the Chickasaw, it's a long story, but basically it's a court-ordered formula that goes into play that basically a long time ago when there was land taken, there was a lawsuit and there was a settlement. Not a settlement, but a court order formula to repay those people's school districts for the land that was taken some time ago, and that's permeated till today. And so the $16 million is basically a formula that is court ordered, and the state has to pay that.
How's that used?
It goes to the school districts, and school districts can put it in an account where they can't use the principal, but they can use the interest off that the Chickasaw money generates. The
total on this story of what it costs to educate your child in fiscal year 2023 is $6,221. That's pretty cheap in terms of other public education.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. In fact, we've been noted for that. In fact, because of all the gains that we've had, Mississippi is nationally known now for our gains in literacy, et cetera. And the first thing that people look at is and you did that with that amount of money? I mean, that's been a comment that has been made more often than not, particularly if you start looking at per pupil expenditures in other states and jurisdictions.
What are the goals for the next school year?
Well, obviously, to continue with our digital learning, that's going to be a big piece of it. Expanding early childhood is going to be huge for us. Making sure that our math coaches are out and about so that we can improve that. We know where our weaknesses are based on our results, and so we'll be designing all of our professional development around that. Expanding CTE programs, that's been a huge initiative for the career technical education. So we've got a lot of pathways that we're trying to make sure our children have access to and are meeting our state's needs.
Are you going to be putting some bills before the legislature in 2021, 22?
We may have technical amendments, but not any massive kind of legislation, no.
Right. The Mississippi students 9th through 12th grade are encouraged to explore their aptitude for cybersecurity and computer science by participating in the free Cyber Start America Talent Search and Competition.
Absolutely. We have the computer science has really been a huge initiative for us, even before the legislation was passed requiring it K-12. We've been working with Code.org on this.
Code.org.
That is the national organization that sponsors computer science. And also we've been working with, now that Mississippi State has also established their cybersecurity headquarters, if you will. We're looking to see how we can partner with them and create another pathway for children around cybersecurity so that you could literally graduate and get a high-paying job in a cybersecurity organization.
When does that start, or is it on?
We're already working on that as we speak, and by 23, 24, there will be computer science K-12 in the state of Mississippi.
I had this story on the bulletin board for a while here. Most schools have completed their first 9 weeks benchmark testing, and most likely are to concern. This was just October 30th, so it's been a while. The Greenville Public School District Board of Trustees, for one, is extremely concerned about reviewing the data from its regular Tuesday meeting. The first benchmark assessment reflecting glaring lows in proficiency scores across nearly all grades for math and English language arts. This was in the Greenville system. The lengthy discussion about what is now being done to address the deficiencies in those subjects was had, and the school board eventually voted unanimously to enter into an agreement with Kirkland Group for Math and U.S. History Consulting Services. It did not, however, vote to enter into the agreement with Bailey Education Group for ELA Consulting Services, despite administrators lamenting of the literacy problem. And my question here, when I started looking and reading all of this, is that the teachers are not able to teach. So we're spending more money on outside consultants. It just doesn't seem right.
Well, we provide a lot of professional development for free for our teachers. So districts, although the districts have the right to hire outside consultants, so there's nothing.
And they have the budget for that.
They find the budget for that, and with a lot of the money that's coming in, particularly with the federal dollars that are coming in, they've been using them for outside consultants. But we, as a State Department, provide professional development in literacy, in math, social studies, history, science, you name it, and that's an ongoing. And teachers can access our professional development either virtually or in person.
What's our teacher situation look like?
Well, it's still an issue. We are also looking to use some of our federal dollars, to be honest with you, to expand our teacher residency program that has been very successful, and our performance-based initiative that we put into place that we use the Kellogg money to get started with. We've been extending that with our federal dollars.
Did we have a drop-off during the pandemic as far as teachers returning?
Not like what I think people expected. I think people expected a lot more people to retire than did, and so, but we still